This is Gene Krebs.
Hi there. Oh. Whoop. Whoosh.
And we're high on Ohio. We're here today with Gene Nixon, who is the health commissioner here for the Summit County Health Department and Summit County Public Health Department. And he's known statewide as being a very good innovator here for public health. And Gene, thank you very much to be on. But let me ask you this question. Aren't public health departments kind of like a victim of their own success? I mean, it's been 100 years since we had thousands of people die in the street of cholera.
Correct. And
because of that, isn't it kind of hard to make your case as to how you're relevant now? Because we have clean water and clean sewer, and you guys have a tremendous role in that. But isn't it kind of hard to convince the Bobby Betty Buckeye to send you money because you've been successful?
Well, you're absolutely right. We say in public health, you know, what we need is a good old-fashioned outbreak sometimes. Okay. Draw attention to what we do. But I think that that's the challenge for public health. I think we have to redesign how we present the case, how we package data, how we collect data, and interpret that data so that it resonates among the public, so that they understand the issues that they're faced with personally and their families and as a society. So I think it's a challenge for us to rethink how we present our data and make our case for strong public health.
How'd you fetch up in this spot?
How did I end up in this spot?
Yeah.
Well, I began...
You woke up at age 8, you said, I want to be a public health commissioner. By God, that's what I want to do. No, very few people do that, I
No, the people that are in public health, most of them that you meet will say they kind of stumbled into it. You know, it is something that not many people, at least in my generation, went into. Now in Ohio, we have several public health schools, and a lot of kids are coming out of school with a career in public health, but that didn't exist in my time. I graduated in biology. I found myself...
From where?
From the University of Akron.
Okay.
And I found myself in Thailand in the Peace Corps, stumbled into public health there, came back to the States and said, well, what's going on here?
And I assume public health in Thailand really is a challenge and really is something that really impacts a lot of people on a day-to-day that they probably, if they don't, they die.
Well, it was a lot of my inspiration to see what the impact could be of not only public health strategies, but also the healthcare system.
I assume it left you with a fine taste for hot, spicy Thai food.
Oh, I love Thai food.
Oh, yeah, I know. My wife makes a great Thai pepper relish. Yeah. Takes the paint off of passing cars. So you've been now here at Summit. Now you have a state reputation as being a reformer, which is a very dangerous thing to do. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll...
But you combined 3 health districts here.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, in 2011, we brought together the Barberton City Health Department, the Akron City Health Department, and Summit County Public Health, which was the balance of the county, together as a single health district. And that was challenging. I mean, we had governance issues, we had financial issues, we had personnel, obviously a lot of personnel issues and legal issues, and so all of these things came together, and it was quite a challenge for us to be able to do that. But we had strong support. We had great leadership in the community. The mayor, the county executive were behind us. The hospital supported us. There was trust between the agencies, and I think we were able to do it because of some of those things. So it was very difficult, but I think in the end, I can't say enough about how it's allowed us to address public health in a different way.
Okay. For another county out there that may be looking to do this, and in Ohio, we suffer from a unique disease, is that everybody thinks that everybody else does it exactly the same way they do it. For example, only 2 states elect their county engineers. Us and Wyoming. We don't have a whole lot in common, okay? But for county health departments that are looking to consolidate, and let's talk a little bit about then, why would Bobby and Betty Buckeye care about their health departments consolidating too?
Well, a lot of it depends on the size, and I think that's what's difficult in Ohio is, like you say, assign one size fits all, because we have Appalachia, we have small rural health departments, we have large city health departments. We have all sizes and shapes of health departments. And funding's different too. I mean, some health departments are supported by levies, some are inside millage, and everything in between. So every health, if you've seen one health department, you have only seen one health department. Okay. So it is a challenge, and I think it's a unique challenge for local communities to take a look at consolidation, whether it's radio systems or whether it's health departments or communities. But
well, then how has this impacted the ordinary citizen here in Summit County, would you say?
Well, we took a look at when we came out of the consolidation. We didn't want to just be a bigger health department. Okay. What we really wanted to do is take the opportunity to assess what we were doing, the value of refocus, the value, the impact of what we were doing, the outcomes and the outputs of what we were doing, and rethink that and be transformational if it was appropriate. So we really have changed gears. What we were 3 years ago is entirely different than what we are today. We've basically quit doing a lot of that clinical care that most health departments do. You think of public health nurses doing clinical care, prenatal care, and so forth. We've kind of gotten out of that business entirely. Okay. Some of that's been the stress of the Affordable Care Act. Some of it's been just recognizing that we don't need to be competing to provide those services.
So now you're talking about the post what is called either Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We're now in that universe where the public health professionals are trying to adapt. Right. And I'm thinking back to my former colleague and good friend, now Congressman Pat Teaberry, who said it's not going to be repealed for a while. Right. And even then, there's some things that are going to stay, like portability. I think everybody agrees that the portability aspect is going to continue on in the future. So there's going to be some changes. So you have my complete sympathies. Okay, you're in a highly dynamic, fluid job universe. How do you see public health departments and indeed your whole role interfacing now with a government structure, a more federally structured system versus one that was more ad hoc and state and local and private combined?
Right. Well, I think we've, over the last few years, tried to read the tea leaves, tried to understand where the Affordable Care Act is headed and what role we could potentially play. I think there's two things I would say is that number one is the care coordination responsibilities and aspect of the Affordable Care Act. And I think that's a role that we've picked up already, begun to do that, recognizing that it's not just about getting people care, but it's also providing all of those wraparound services they need. And a lot of that's outside of the clinical care arena. Okay. There's behavioral health, there's housing issues and so forth that we can play a role in that. We're doing that. But I think the other part about the Affordable Care Act that it did have, and I'm not sure everybody recognizes this, but it had a public health, a wellness component to it. Okay. And I think that that's the part that we can thrive on, and I think that there's opportunities, there's funding to move towards that. And we've actually been successful in securing some funding to do some of that and created what we call an affordable care community. I'm sure you've heard of affordable care organizations, right, which build that team around clients and patients. Well, this is actually, let's engage the social service, non-government agencies, and government agencies in the community and focus on some of these issues and build a stronger, healthier community.
All right. Then recently I interviewed Dr. Boutros of Metro Health, and for those who are watching who may not be familiar, Metro Health is the public hospital for Cuyahoga County. Traditionally, most of its care has been the poor and the indigent. What he was talking about, and I want to express a little bit with you, is in this brave new world and universe, it used to be that the healthcare industry was very reactive. You walk in, you say, I'm sick, here's some antibiotics, right, now go home. Now it's becoming more of a holistic aspect, is what I'm kind of picking up from them. How do you see public health departments fitting into that whole structure then?
Well, I think that there's it's a matter of definition. If you talk to healthcare professionals, they'll talk about a population-based health approach. Okay. And it is just what I spoke to. It's the idea that all your clinical practitioners in various disciplines circle around a client and provide them the support they need, all of the health care needs. When you talk about population-based approaches in public health, that's a different model altogether.
Now, this does require, at some point in time, some veneer of bedside manner. And we've got a whole lot of docs out there who, frankly, lack a bedside manner. And part of it is because how we choose our docs. I mean, there's no emotional quotient test when you go in and take your med boards. It's all about, do you know your math, do you know your chemistry, do you know your biology? And basically what we've done here in this country, we've developed, our medical professionals are brainiacs. Now, when I'm going to see somebody, I do want them to, if I'm going to go and see a specialist, I want them to be a complete and total geek, okay? I'm fine with that. But now what you're talking about is asking them to exhibit personality traits that may not be of natural comfort to them. Do you see that as a problem?
Well, you're getting a little out of our bailiwick here. I think that that's true. I think there's some validity to that. And I think, one of the things that we are working on locally is trying to build some of that more local population-based models, that you have actually a family-based kind of physician that understands the client all the way around.
Interviews all of them and everything.
Understands the not only the individual, but the individual circumstances, the family, the neighborhood, and all of those other things that contribute to that individual's health.
All right, then let me ask you this question. Full disclosure, my best friend back home is a podiatric surgeon. Okay, actually, guy's training up in Cleveland. He has been telling me now for a quarter century that if there's just one thing we could fix, it'd be diabetes. And it's 90% preventable. I mean, people stop eating potato chips, okay? Stop eating Cheetos. Stop eating, instead of having a pint of ice cream, don't have that and not a gallon. Okay. How are you going to be able if you talk about one of the key things that leads to a medical cascade collapse, that leads to just whole series of complicating and expensive remedies, especially for an indigent, poor, welfare, Medicaid population, it's diabetes. How are you going to convince people? My problem is still, Gene, is the fact that I'm 6'5", I'm 240 pounds, and I really need to be closer to 7 feet. Okay, I'm still not tall enough according to my weight. But my point is the fact that we are, as a whole society, pudgy.
Right.
And that leads to diabetes. How do we fix that?
Well, we're more than pudgy. We're obese.
Yeah. It's being pudgy because I'm trying to be polite here.
Since 1990, our caloric intake has increased 30%. As a society, and that includes.
Can you say that again?
Our caloric intake has increased 30% since 1990.
So since 1990, over the past, 24 years now?
Yeah.
We have increased our amount of calories we've intake by 30%,
and that's more fats, that's more sugars, that's more salt.
I assume that we're all exercising a third more too, right?
So this is, I think, some of that when you go back to the Affordable Care Act. Okay. We've created a health system, a health mechanism to produce more aspirin. It's the analogy I use. And make access to aspirin more ubiquitous for everyone. Let's get everybody access to the aspirin. Nobody's asking, why do we need all the aspirin? Well, let's take a look at why everybody's got a headache in the first place. Okay. And I think that's where we fail. The other thing is, I think we've kind of cultivated within our society a sense of expectation that the medical system, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry will solve our problems. Okay.
Oh, in other words, we need just the right drug.
Right. After my first heart attack, I'll ignore the cholesterol. I'll ignore the high blood pressure and the fact that I'm overweight until I have my first heart attack. Then I'll get taken care of and I'll get myself in shape then. And that's the wrong way to approach things. And I think that's where public health in large part has failed in being able to do something about that.
Now, Bobby Betty Buckeye believed that erroneously that most policy, providers are out there, bureaucrats are sitting out there and just going through the bushes. They don't care. You have the statewide reputation of caring very, very much. Now, the flip side of caring is it keeps you up at night. So what keeps you up at night?
Well, there's probably a couple things. I think first off, the public health system has transitioned, as you mentioned, when the foundations of public health revolved around those infectious diseases.
Cholera.
Can
you talk just pause a minute? You guys got invented due to cholera, basically.
Well,
so I understand.
Influenza.
But talk a little bit about, if you will, about the history of the public health department and how you all got formed.
Well, in Ohio, we had the great influenza outbreak in 1918, and in fact that they recognized that there wasn't a system in place to assure that people could get mass inoculations of vaccines or do quarantine or investigate diseases, so we needed to create that. So the Hughes-Griswold Act was created that basically established the framework for public health in Ohio. And it was around those issues. Build a system that could deal with polio and smallpox and these diseases that killed our parents and grandparents in large part. So that was where public health started. Now, over the course of 100 years, what we've seen is a change in what's killing people. Yeah. It's not infectious diseases any longer. It's heart disease, COPD, diabetes, as you mentioned, and these other scourges of cancer and so forth. So public health has had to change to adapt to meet those new challenges. Well, we're seeing today a reemergence of some of those old diseases. Multi-drug resistant tuberculosis and some of these diseases that aren't subject to some of the cures that we've relied on, the antibiotics and so forth. So I think some of those things, I think we take for granted that antibiotics will cure all, and we're losing that capacity. So I worry a lot about some of these diseases that could reemerge and really wreak havoc on our society.
Yeah, I know every now and then people see in the news where somebody's had a outbreak of, a bug on a cruise ship. But compare that with people getting slightly ill to typhus, used to sweep through. Cholera always started, if cholera started at the highlands, and it just kept working its way down on the running water, and everybody just kept dying until it got all the way down to the ocean. TB.
Well, we see new diseases. It's not only the reemergence of old diseases, but we see, AIDS is a new disease, antiviruses, Ebola. There are new diseases every year. And who knows which one of those could. So that bothers me some, and I think that we should be more concerned. And public health is concerned about those things.
We've gotten complacent then.
Well, I don't know that we've been complacent, but we don't want to lose the capacity to deal with that. Those are our foundations, and I don't think we want to lose that. But the other thing I think that concerns me is, of course, organizationally. We have over 200 employees, and the thing that is most, I think, precious to us is our credibility.
Okay.
I think that, when there is an outbreak, when there's an H1, H5 influenza outbreak, we need the public to trust us, and so that we can provide information that they can trust. And when we talk about, here's our priority groups for inoculations, they trust us that we're not excluding them for nefarious reasons. And I think that credibility issue is critical for public health to be able to do its job effectively.
Okay. There's probably out there a lot of myths about what it is that you do and don't do. Would you take time to bust any myths here?
Well, I mentioned, of course, is that sense that medicine, big medicine, can solve all your problems. I think that's one of the things. But I think for public health,
you're not calling for individual responsibility and taking control of our own diet and actions here, are you?
A bit more would be helpful.
Now, according to Dr. Oz, as long as I eat one Brazil nut every morning, according to my wife, I'll be fine.
I forgot mine today.
Right.
So, but I think that the other thing is that what health departments do. Most people are familiar with us inspecting restaurants. They may be familiar with mosquito control. They may know that we do give flu shots, but we have over 100 programs. We're deeply embedded in the community, and the things that we can do and the things that we do go way beyond, I think, what the public expects from us.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question completely out of left field, and that is, is Dr. Oz good for the general public health? Or is he just part of this whole thing? We keep running off from one fad to another. My wife will watch him on occasion, and then immediately I'm subjected to a whole new series of foods I'm allowed to eat or not eat.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think all of that's a little bit suspect. Am I just being an irritable old coot or what?
I don't know. I think that you could measure it in a couple ways. There's probably advantages and disadvantages. People recognizing, going and trying to understand how to be healthier, whether it's necessarily entirely valid or not. They're making an effort to try to find out how to be healthier. Mm-hmm. So I think in that respect it's good. Some of the things may not necessarily be time proven. But yeah, so I guess there's a balance there.
Well, let me end with this question. This looks like an ordinary ink pen.
Okay.
It's not. It's actually my magic wand.
All right.
I'm going to wave it over you. Gene Nixon, Health Commissioner here for the Summit County Public Health Department. Okay? You get to require the General Assembly to do one thing. Okay? I guarantee you they will pass the law. I also guarantee you the governor will sign it. And I guarantee you a majority of the Supreme Court. And I can't get you unanimous Supreme Court because I'm not that powerful. Okay, but I can get you a majority of them. What would be the one thing you'd like to see them do here in the state of Ohio that impacts public health?
Well, I think there's administrative issues about the authority of local health departments. I think there are, of course, issues about tobacco and food access.
Yeah, the governor's proposed some recent things as we're talking here about tobacco.
He has, and I think that those, but I think some of the problem with those programs is they're silos. Okay, so it doesn't allow us necessarily to use, to be innovative or to address the issues that we identify locally as priorities for our community.
So you need big sledgehammers to bust down all the silos.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that's unusual in local government, but certainly a lot of the money that we get is contract money, is grant money, and it limits our ability to be innovative and to do some of the things. So I think some if they could do anything is create more flexibility in our funding so that we can develop things in partnership with other local government agencies to be more effective.
Now, you mentioned partnerships with other government agencies. Full disclosure, I sit on the Local Government Innovation Council. We hand out money for local governments to we've been criticized by certain people up on the 30th floor of the Rife Tower, saying, you want to give money to local government entities to do the right things they should already be doing. Why don't they just simply do them because they're the right thing? You guys have taken the bull by the horns. You've consolidated. Do you feel bad if we were to give some other county's health department some money to go ahead and do what you've already done?
I certainly would not.
There's no jealousy on your part.
No, there's not. I think there is some
you're
advantage.
A good person. You're a good person.
I think there is some advantage to scale, and I do think that that I can spend 90% of my time worrying about money from the Ohio General Assembly or the governor's office, and that's wasted time.
Yeah.
It's because it's probably not coming. Okay, so really, I need to be proactive locally and develop programs that are critical to the community and need to be in place, and they'll be supported. And they'll be supported. So,
do you have any final thoughts you want to share with the viewers of this program?
No, I think that I appreciate the opportunity to talk about public health. Sometimes we're hidden in the weeds there.
I'm very sincere. I mean, I used to be a county commissioner, and I always tell my health commissioner, you need to go out and talk about cholera someday. That it used to be all over, and people 1/3 the population could die any spring due to it.
Right.
And they did.
And it's a difficult position to be in because prevention means that things aren't happening.
Right.
So if you're doing a good job, it's hard to measure the things that aren't happening because of the positive things you're doing.
Okay.
So if we've cleaned up the water supply, people aren't dying from cholera.
Right.
And yet if we pulled the money away from that and quit protecting our water, we might have significant health issues related to water.
So what they need to tell them is think of the worst cruise ship health disaster you've ever heard of, make it county-wide, and 1/3 of them die, and now you have the bad old days.
Right.
that's basically what we're talking about.
Right. It is. It really is. And when you talk about these mass scourges, if you go back in history, the Middle Ages and you know, the plague and so forth, I mean, people didn't understand the disease-bacteria relationships.
Vectors,
so
rats.
these were, you know, God.
Oh yeah,
coming down
visitations.
and you know, and that, you know, imagine the fear and the uncertainty and the upheaval in the arts and the society and humanities and so forth with the impact of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well.
Wash your hands.
Yes.
That would be my final.
Just wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Just
Everything
wash your
will be
hands.
fine.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been Gene Krebs here. I've been sitting here with Gene Nixon, who's the health commissioner for the Summit County Public Health District, and we've been having an interesting conversation about public health. And I'm going to, as soon as I get home, I'm going to tell my wife, quit watching Dr. Oz all the time and making me eat anything that he says I should be eating. Okay. So with that, thank you very much, and tune in next week. Goodbye.
For more about the Center for Community Solutions or their publications, please visit www.communitysolutions.com.